but also take this time to invite our next speaker, a very good friend of mine, Themba, who will be introducing himself. And also, as I said before, once he introduces himself, you'll understand, of course, the magnitude and the work that he does, ensuring that we are domesticating the pact of the future, but also from a policy perspective, from a global perspective. So it's my great pleasure to welcome Themba. And so, Themba, you're most welcome, and thank you for making the time to be with all of us here, and for the young people in Kenya who are aspiring to learn more, but also to engage in this process. Karibu sana. Thank you very much.
Asante sana, Florence. It's good to see you, and great to see all the young people that have joined this webinar. So Jambo, good morning from New York, and good afternoon to you in Kenya. It's a real pleasure for me to join this webinar on my Youth in the Pact for the Future. Let me begin by acknowledging and thanking all the organizers for this event that Florence mentioned in her opening remarks. But I want to start by highlighting that the story of the Pact for the Future cannot be told without mentioning Kenya. Kenya hosted the Civil Society Conference in support of the Summit of the Future last year, and it was co-chaired by a Kenyan, Carol Osero again. And Kenya continues to demonstrate bold leadership both globally and nationally in this critical phase of Pact implementation. Just last week, on the margins of the high-level political forum, I had the pleasure of speaking at the same event as Florence, who shared inspiring updates on how Kenya is already implementing the Pact and accelerating the SDGs. Creating spaces like this one for dialogue, for ideas, for action is how we begin to turn global commitments into local impact. It is even more inspiring when such spaces are led by young people. I lived in Kenya for 8 years, and I know from my own experience how young people in Kenya are hardworking, innovative, full of ideas, and always eager to make a positive contribution. Today, I want to briefly address 3 questions. 1, what is the Pact for the Future, and what does it say about the youth? And I'll build on what the 2 previous speakers have eloquently outlined. Secondly, what are we doing to implement it? And then how you as young people can get involved. So what is the Pact for the Future? So the Pact for the Future, adopted by consensus at the Summit of the Future last year, is one of the most ambitious and wide-ranging global agreements in recent memory. At a time when global cooperation is under pressure, the Pact is a powerful reminder that consensus and collective action are still possible. The Pact for the Future and its annexes, the Global Digital Compact and the Declaration on Future Generations, reflect renewed commitment to multilateralism, meaning countries coming together, working to tackle challenges like slow progress on SDG implementation, climate action, inequality, conflict, with the UN as a platform where every nation, including Kenya, has a voice. The Pact for the Future is structured around 5 chapters. Chapter 1, Sustainable Development and Financing for Development. Chapter 2, International Peace and Security. Chapter 3, Science, Technology, Innovation, and Digital Cooperation. Chapter 4, Youth and Future Generations. And the last chapter, Chapter 5, Transforming Global Governance. It includes 56 concrete actions to deliver on existing commitments such as the SDGs, while addressing emerging and fast-evolving challenges like artificial intelligence and digital governance. And like I said, the Pact also includes 2 annexes, the Global Digital Compact and the Declaration on Future Generations. And what does the Pact say about youth? Youth are at the heart of the Pact. It recognizes youth as agents of change, as contributors to peace, development, and human rights, and as vital partners in shaping our shared future. The Pact calls for investments in young people's social and economic development, protecting their human rights, and meaningful participation of youth in decision-making at national and global levels. From the start, youth have played an important role. Youth have helped shape the Pact's journey from participating in national and regional consultations, including in Kenya, to leading discussions at the civil society conference that took place in Nairobi, to energizing the youth action days that happened at the Summit of the Future. Your ideas, your voices, your vision, and those of other young people across the world made the Pact more relevant and more ambitious. Secondly, what are we doing to implement the Pact? The adoption of the Pact, just like any other agreement, is just the beginning. Implementation is a real test. To make sure that the Pact for the Future translates into action, the UN Secretary General has established a high-level steering committee, which he chairs personally, along 6 thematic working groups reporting to the steering committee. One of these working groups is focused specifically on youth and is working on 3 key initiatives. The first one is a global youth investment platform. Second is a new set of youth participation principles developed with young people and youth organizations. And this is to ensure that the UN, in its all processes and mechanisms, young people are meaningfully engaged. And the last one is to establish a UN Youth Fund, which should support young people like yourselves, especially when it comes to participating in some of the UN processes, which oftentimes take place here in New York. At the country level, the UN resident coordinators are helping anchor the Pact in national strategies and plans, and I'm glad that this event, this webinar, has been organized jointly with our colleagues in the Resident Coordinator's Office in Kenya. Some of the examples that we are seeing across Africa, in Uganda, for instance, youth were part of a national dialogue, aligning the Pact for the Future with the country's development plan. Similar engagements are underway in Mozambique, Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and the Gambia, among other countries. We are also working with the Economic Commission for Africa to advance Pact implementation at the regional level. And at the Africa Regional Forum on Sustainable Development in Kampala earlier this year, the Pact was part of the discussion, and I had a chance to meet many civil society leaders and young change makers from Kenya, including some of you who are here today. Now, turning to my last question, how can you be involved? Let me just say that young people across the world are already taking action, from launching local initiatives to advocating for change to building partnerships. In Italy, youth delegates are taking the Pact into classrooms. In Europe, youth organized a Pact workshop at the Europe Youth event. In Africa, your colleagues, the 2024 African UN Youth Delegates, created a Youth Action Toolkit to help guide local implementation. Let me just highlight a few ways in which perhaps you could consider supporting Pact implementation. First, form coalitions. Work across sectors and regions to build bridges and advocate for the implementation of the Pact commitments, especially on SDGs. Time is short, as we all know. We have less than 5 years into 2030, and we need to raise our ambition. We need to amplify and accelerate the action towards the achievement of the SDGs. Secondly, seek accountability. Use evidence, data, monitoring tools to track progress and push for delivery of commitments by governments and by the United Nations. Third, showcase solutions. Share your stories, whether you're promoting peace, advancing climate action, enhancing digital literacy, or advocating for inclusive AI governance. Your experiences matter. Use your platforms, including many of you are on social media. Use them to amplify the Pact as an asset to accelerate not only the SDGs, but also African Union's Agenda 2063 and national development priorities. Yes, these are uncertain times, but if we want a multilateral system that is fit for the future, it must be co-created with you, the young people. Your leadership, your ideas, your imagination are already shaping that future, and we need them more than ever. So let's keep going, let's keep building, let's keep pushing together. It's such a pleasure to see the large turnout, about 100 people joining this webinar. And I hope that it won't just be a discussion. You will share insights that informs how you move collectively as young people in Kenya to support localization of the Pact for the Future and ensure that youth are driving and at the center of the implementation of the Pact for the Future. Asanteni sana, and back to you, moderator. Thank you.